Hello everyone, this is Deltrox, and today we are going to be going over the proposed Vykosa changes and how it will affect tanks in primarily Veteran Asylum Sanctorum that were proposed today on the week 1 of the PTS for Storm. So let's start by going over what Vykosa currently does. So Vykosa is a monster set that is currently in the game and drops from Moonhunter Keep. And it has a one piece of adds 4% healing taken. This is pretty weak as far as one piece goes for monster sets for tanks. Usually you want to see health or tri-stat here if you're wearing Stonekeeper, or physical resistances. But since it just adds healing, you don't really get any real extra survivability from it. But it does increase your burst healing and the healing over time that you get, so it's okay. It's definitely on the weaker side of tank buffs, but its two pieces what's really interesting here, and it is when you bash an enemy you've taunted, you frighten them with a deafening howl, applying major maim to them for 3 seconds, lowering their damage done by 30%. This effect can occur once every 15 seconds. So this is primarily a set that is used as the main tank in Veteran Asylum Sanctorum. Because of this, Olms, the main boss, the big dragon, he will fly up into the air and start shooting lightning bolts at everybody. This is called Storm the Heavens. And when this mechanic happens, usually if you get hit by 2 of these bolts, or 1 of these bolts and something else, you'll probably die. But if Olms is maimed, you can survive 2 or even 3 of these bolts pretty easily. And so it just gives DPS a lot of extra wiggle room, and it occurs once probably every 45 seconds to a minute. And so the 15-second cooldown really doesn't matter because we're saving it specifically for one specific ability. The duration is a little short. It doesn't last the entirety of Storm the Heavens, but it'll last for the first few bolts, at least, if you time it right. So, excuse me. So now let's look into what the proposed changes are. So this is, again, week 1 of the PTS for Storm, and it is Vykosa. This set now reduces the enemy's spell and weapon power by up to 268 instead of applying major maim. Increase the duration to 8 seconds and reduce the cooldown to 12 seconds. So there are 3 things happening here: increased duration, lower cooldown, and changing from major maim to spell and weapon power. So we already talked about why changing the cooldown doesn't really mean anything. You're not using the set on cooldown anyways. And so changing it from 12 seconds to 15 seconds really doesn't matter at all. And increasing the duration to 8 seconds is nice, but Storm the Heavens lasts probably about 5 to 6 seconds. And so 8 seconds is already overkill on one of the longer mechanics that you'll be using this for. Other mechanics that you'll use this for is like the Warrior's Starfall, or in Ma Lorcaj, the Rakat, his meteors that he calls down. These are other mechanics that Vykosa will affect, but for now we're just focusing on Olms' Storm the Heavens, which again is one of the longer ones. And so the duration again is nice, but not really that important. And finally, the big one is it no longer applies major maim. It reduces the enemy's spell and weapon power by up to 268. So what exactly does this mean? On live, I did a test on Veteran Olms where I had 1 apply Vykosa and minor maim, and then I had 1 apply infused weakening on a one-handed sword, minor maim. And then a base with no buffs. I didn't mean to apply minor maim, but I applied it to both of them, so it doesn't really make that big of a difference, and I've accounted for it, so it's not that big of a deal, and I'll talk about that. So, Weakening Enchant reduces the target weapon and spell damage by 226 for 5 seconds. This is very similar to the Vykosa buff. And so that's kind of what we used to simulate the Vykosa buff in this test. And here is the damage from 3 different times that Storm the Heavens happened. Sacrament Remains is my resident Stamcrow Ooki, who helped me out with this. And he was the one who got hit by Kite for me. And so Ooki got hit for the first one with Major Maim and Minor Maim for 7,655. Hit by the second one, which was Minor Maim and Weakening, for 11,400. And then the third one, he had Elude up, which gives Major Evasion, which reduces AoE damage by 25%, which gave him 10,307 damage. And then in this one, we had a control where there were no buffs or debuffs applied at all. It was just him attacking with Reliquin, and Storm the Heavens did 13,919 damage. And so what exactly do these numbers mean? So the first thing that you can see right off the bat is that Vykosa is stronger than Weakening by a fairly large amount. And another thing that we can look at is that Vykosa reduced the damage by about 4,175, while Minor Maim reduced the damage by about another 2,087, and Minor and Major Maim are additive, they are not multiplicative, which means that on the Weakening and the Minor Maim parse, or not parse, but damage taken, there was only 448 damage that wasn't blocked by Minor Maim, which means that it was blocked by Weakening. And so what this actually means is that Weakening reduced the damage by about 2 for every point that it reduced. And so my weapon here reduced it by 226. It reduced it by 448 damage. Like I said, this is very close to reducing it by 2 points of damage for every 1 point of reducing weapon and spell damage. And so Vykosa is 268 now, and so that means that we can expect it will reduce the damage of Kite by about 536. Compare this to the live of 4,175, and you'll see that that is an almost 8 times nerf. This is an incredibly heavy nerf for Vykosa, and I think it will render it completely useless, actually. Vykosa is a very niche set, and this just makes it go from niche to completely unusable. An extra 500 damage off of Kite doesn't really matter, and will very unlikely make the difference between it killing you and not killing you. I believe that is all I have to say on this topic. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or threats, please leave them in the comments below, or email me, or direct message me on Discord, or something like that. I'm always happy to answer questions, and thank you for watching. I hope that this made sense, and have a good day.